Hey everyone, it's time for me to clean my EDC. It's something I recommend everybody do, even if you haven't shot it. These do get a lot of dust and lint, just a little extra buildup from being carried around, sweat, things of that nature. Because it's my EDC, I'll use one of these kits. I do have a bore snake as well, right here. I'll be using this as well, but because it's my EDC, I like to be a little bit more thorough. So I just feel a little bit more confident when I use these type of brushes. Now the first thing I'm going to do is make sure the gun is clear. Of course, take off the holster, take out the magazine, and because it is my EDC, make sure I clear the chamber. I'm going to set these aside. You don't want to have ammo next to you. It's very easy to forget and make a mistake you're going to regret forever by you end up shooting something or someone. So go ahead and put these away. I'm going to put them on a counter just out of sight. All right, now that I've got that cleared out of the way, next thing is to make sure that I take down the gun. I already know it's cleared because I just took out the magazine, took out the round that was in there. Of course, you can always visually check just to make sure. This M&P does have very easy setup. So taking it down is very similar to a Glock. Just lock it back like that. Again, no magazine in it. This lever pivots down, kind of angles forward, so just press on the back here. If this is the first time you're doing it on your gun, this might be a little bit harder, but rest assured it does swing over. That's, as you can see, that's all it is. I know when I first got one of my other shields that I used to have, it was I thought it was extremely difficult, but it was just brand new. So if you don't take it down very often, know that that might be a little more difficult than what I just did right now. And now once you have this little lever down, you can push the slide back just a little bit, take this down. Normally I'd say just push that down, but on the M&Ps it's not as easy as on some of the other guns out there. Once it's down, you're going to pull the trigger and pull the slide to the front. And as you can see, it slides right off. Now I also use a toothbrush. You can use anything you'd like, but I like to try to get in here when I get rid of some of the buildup, especially right around this area. And you can also just clear out any little debris that's in there from any powder or even dust. It just makes it a little easier. And this is just an old toothbrush I have, and I specifically use it only for cleaning my guns. The main things I want to make sure of is that this area is clean. I know some people use a spray. You can use like a spray oil, just kind of with the pressure of the oil, just clean it off, wipe it down with something similar to a brush again, where you can just kind of knock out most of that stuff and then just get some air and blow it out. If you don't have all that equipment, or you're indoors like I am right now, I don't have access to that. So what I'm going to do is just set this down first, because that's the second thing I clean. But I'm going to continue taking the slide down. And for those of you who haven't done it, this spring you just press down and pivot it out of that little pocket that it's sitting in. Just kind of hold on to the slide, push this back down just a little bit and tilt up. This is a captured spring, so you don't have to worry about accidentally having it, shoot out somewhere. It's just as simple. That's the way it's going to stay. So it just sits in this little pocket right here, just kind of leaning on it, and the tip portion of it just sits in there. That's all it does. It just sits in there. As you can see, it won't fit till you press it in. So for taking it out, it's the same thing. It's under tension. Push it down, slide it out. Once you slide that out, next thing is just to remove the barrel. The barrel just comes up and diagonally out. It's that easy. You shouldn't struggle with this. So I know some people I've seen where they just can't get it out, and I think it's because they're pulling straight up. If you pull straight up, it's going to catch back here. And if you're having a difficult time, just press right there with your thumb, and then it pops up. And again, I've only seen that with brand new guns where it's just a little stiffer the first time around. So the first thing I'm going to do is start with the barrel, and you can start anywhere you'd like. It's your gun, but for me, that's usually the dirtiest part of the gun. This is just a regular microfiber cloth. I use it to wipe down Normally I use the little Remington wipes, the oil wipes. However, I've run out. The reason I use the wipes is, of course, it's got a little bit of oil on it, and you can just kind of wipe everything off at the same time as you're lubricating it. Now, if you can see, it's not too bad. It's got a little buildup right there on the feed ramp. You don't want that to stay there and then get hard over time with the carbon buildup, because then it's going to prevent your rounds from going in. And you definitely don't want that on a carry gun. If it's a range gun, you could always just kind of clear it, mess with it. But if you're using this in a real life situation with a carry gun, it's not something you're going to have time to do. And because I clean it and maintain it pretty well and pretty often, you can see that kind of just came off right away. And it's been a few days of it being there. The reason I hadn't cleaned it before is simply because I switched out to another EDC and said I'll clean this one later. Next thing is I'm just going to quickly give this a light wipe with this brush. Just kind of brush it right there. Get rid of any little buildup that it had. Same thing, just a quick wipe. A good 90% of the actual cleaning is going to be just wiping it down. Same thing when we get to the slide and the frame. The hard scrubbing and all of that, you don't have to do too much unless it's a really old gun that you haven't cleaned in some time and the carbon has at that point become stiff, kind of like rock or sediments. Now this is just a kit that I had with my M&P, one of my performance center guns. It's a real simple setup. Most kits are very similar to this. It's just two rods put them together. Same thing with this one on the top. And this does swivel from right here. Some will swivel from the where you connect the head. That's normal. It'll slide it in and out of the barrel and be turning at the same time. It does have little grooves in there. So I'll just run this through this a couple of times. And periodically, because I don't do this every single cleaning, although I probably should, I'll use some of this Hoppy's gun bore cleaner. Just kind of dip that in there. And just run it through. And I do it just a few times, just a handful of times. It doesn't have to be extreme. I've seen people, and I've done this on a different gun, just for the sake of trying it, where you put a drill back here, clamp on it, and just have it spin. But it really isn't necessary. Again, this spins anyway, so it's not really doing you any good. As the drill spins, that's going to stay stationary, so you're not really spinning it inside anyway. And that should be pretty good. You can also use a brush if you have just like a brass brush, and just scrape off any buildup that you see out here. Mine really doesn't have any. Although mine does have ports, it really doesn't stay on there, as you could see. And that's partly because I clean it every time I take it out shooting. I'll come back home, I'll clean it up. And if I don't switch out my EDC, I'll make sure it's nice, thoroughly cleaned, reassemble it, and then just put it back in the holster. And that is one of the benefits of always cleaning your gun, is that it's always going to be easier the next time around. It's kind of like cleaning your home. First time might be a pain, might take a little longer, but after that, it's just maintaining it. I'm just going to use one of these mops to go ahead and clean up a little bit. And again, just a handful of times should be good. If you have a bore snake, you can also use this to clean it off. I don't mind these for drying it, but because it only has this little section of bristles, I just don't feel like it's enough to clean a gun. At least not when it's my EDC. If it was just a quick pass through because it's a range gun, I'm just going to quickly put it away. It's not a big deal. I'd feel fine using this. It's just, again, because it's my everyday carry, I want to be more thorough with it. Slide it through there. And I always do like a small little visual inspection, just in case. I mean, we know it's clean, we know there's nothing in there, but you don't want it to be that one time that there's just an unusual something that's in your barrel, crack, something that you might notice that you wouldn't otherwise if you weren't cleaning it. So go ahead and take the time to look. I don't see anything unusual. Lands are perfect. No issues, nothing obvious. So you already have it apart. Doesn't hurt to just go ahead and take a quick look. The spring itself, I normally just wipe it down. Again, if I did have the Remington little oil cloth, I'd wipe this down as well just to kind of keep it lubricated. It still has a little bit of oil on there from the last time. Again, I've only shot this the one time since I cleaned it because I do it all the time, but it's relatively clean, so I don't have to really worry about any corrosion just now. If you don't have those little cloths, you can just use any sort of lubrication that's made for a pistol or for metal for that matter. Once you do so, just make sure you wipe off the excess. You don't want it to be covered or coated in any sort of grease or oil. I wouldn't recommend grease at all. I've heard of some people doing that. Again, grease is thicker. It's going to attract a whole bunch of dust, sand, dirt, whatever is in your environment, and you don't want that eating away at your gun over time. But I'm satisfied with it being pretty clean. Again, no real issues to note. And I always look just to make sure there's no cracks or anything. Sometimes we take things for granted. We just, oh, wipe it down, it's good. And that's how things break because we don't pay that extra attention to make sure that no spring is broken. So that's good. Slide also needs a little bit of attention. Most times when you're cleaning a gun, it's going to be right here because of course this is where the breech is, and the blast that doesn't go in the barrel kind of comes back here, and you'll end up with a bunch of residue there, which is where I just use a brush, wipe it down. You can, if you want, dip this in some of the solvent, give it that extra cleaning. I'm confident with the way it is, so I'm not going to do that today. And of course, the actual breech face. I would recommend, instead of using a brush, like a toothbrush like I'm doing, use an actual brass brush. The reason I'm just using this is because, again, I know my firearm. I know it's clean enough that I can do that. But if you haven't cleaned yours in a while, use a brass brush. That way you make sure you knock everything out of that so that it closes correctly and you don't have to worry about something like firing out of battery or it not firing because you're out of battery. That's pretty clean. Wipe it down from here. Again, if you did have those wipes, it'd be lubricating it as you're cleaning it as well. Now what you can also do is just spray a little bit of your oil, whatever type of oil that you are using, onto a cloth. I'm going to go ahead and just use this microfiber cloth here and wipe it down. I get the walls, I get everything. I try to make it as clean as possible, but at the same time, you don't want it caked in oil because at that point, again, it's just going to be attracting a bunch of things you don't want and have it be all inside your gun for the next time you take it apart. Worst case scenario, it causes you some sort of issue and prevents the gun from shooting, which is, of course, counterproductive, especially when we're trying to clean it to make sure that it fires every single time. If this was a regular range gun, I'd be satisfied with this for the slide. It's nice, it's clean, it's got a little bit of lubrication on it, and I'd be good to go. But because this is my carry gun, I'm going to go ahead and take off the back plate and the striker. It's a little hard to see, but you'll be able to see the end of a little tubular cap right there. All you got to do is press that down, and as you're holding that with your finger or your thumb, push down on the end cap and just slide it out. Let me try this, see if I can do that here. That's all there is to it. Of course, put your thumb back here so nothing shoots out, and then just pull this out. And that's it. You can then push this back. Now, if it doesn't go back when you're trying to press on it, it's because the plunger is blocking it. So just press down on this safety plunger and then slide it out. This, you want to make sure it's dry. I don't put anything on here that's going to have buildup, so I'm not spraying it with oil or anything. If you want to make sure that the spring isn't rusted, maybe you live in a very humid area, you can wipe it with a cloth that has a little bit of oil. Just make sure you dry it well enough. You don't want to leave anything really on there. Just make sure it has a very, very thin, minimal amount of coating. But most people kind of want this dry. Don't pull back on the spring while you're cleaning it, trying to clean like the rod or anything. These little caps will fall out and then you have to reassemble it. And if you don't have to, why bother? As you can see, these are like little cups, as I'm doing exactly what I told you not to do. But of course, I'm familiar with how to put it back. As you can see, it's already gone over. So now I will have to go ahead and set those back in. Actually, it has something there I want to take a look at. So let me actually go ahead and remove that cup. I'm just going to press this down, slide this out of the way. On the Shield Plus, this is one piece. On the other shields, it used to be two pieces, two little cups you'd have to mess with. It's kind of a pain. Now I'm only taking this down to take a quick look at it. Everything's fine. I'm going to go ahead and put this back together. Make sure the spring's in good order. I see that it is. No obvious kinks or cracks, anything broken. And of course, if it's broken, you'd see because it'd be in 2 or 3 or however many pieces it was cracked in. You're going to hold this down, press this down against the surface, and you're going to slide this in, of course, with the wider part being on top. Then you're going to let it go. Alright, so that's all. Striker's all nice and clean. You don't want to put anything in there. Don't put oil. Don't put anything in there. This has to be able to freely move back and forth. And you don't want it sticking to the outer part of that channel. You also, again, don't want debris in there. That's going to prevent this from going all the way front and having the firing pin engage the back of your primer. This is a little extra. Again, you don't necessarily have to do this, but this is my everyday carry. I feel more comfortable doing that. You're going to go ahead and press this back in. Just put a little pressure on it, and again, it won't go all the way in until you relieve the tension from that safety plunger. So press that down, push it in, and it's locked in once again. Now for the end cap, it's got grooves right there. You're just going to go ahead and put that, line it up with that. Now the plastic little cover is going to be in your way. So you're going to hold that in place. And you're just going to press down on this little plastic piece until it gets past the end plate, the back plate. And once you get it past the back plate, you can just press in on the back plate and have it slide in. I'm just having a little bit of difficult time only because I'm not using a regular punch. This is the roll punch, so the tip is rounded out. But don't let this worry you. You can use anything that has some sort of like edge or point to it. I'm struggling, as my mother would say, because I want to. Because believe it or not, a few feet away from me is a regular punch. I might have to give in and just get that regular punch. Nope, got it. That's it. I made that seem a lot more difficult than it was because, again, I'm using a roll punch instead of a regular punch, which would be flat. Just press that down. You can use anything, as I mentioned. So this is good. It's clean. I've wiped it down. It's got a little bit of lubrication on it. No issues with the slide. You want to make sure the channel is clear of any sort of debris. Mine is. If you're not sure, again, just get a brass brush or any brush for that matter, just to kind of get anything that might be stuck in there out. Give it a quick wipe. And as you can see, it's pretty clean. The main spots are really going to be on the breech face. That's usually what gets the dirtiest, and right about here. But as long as there's nothing on the sides, you've given it a quick wipe down. Not a whole lot else to do with the slide. Mine has little serrations, so I would want to get in there if it was like really gunked up, just to prevent anything from happening with the barrel. I know most people are going to be like, well, it's a round going off. It's going to definitely push that out of the way, but we've seen small things stop a gun from cycling before, so let's not risk it. Again, this is our carry gun. I just want to make sure. I thought I saw something in there. Could be nothing, could have just been a shadow, but I have it out, so why not make sure it's nothing. Okay, I'm good. Now to reassemble this, barrel's going to be with the lugs facing up. You're going to have the barrel, I'm sorry, not the barrel, but the slide upside down. Going to go ahead and drop that back in, and it finds its little spot. And as you can see, it's all the way back, it's all the way flush, and it's not sticking out more than what it should. So you just want to make sure that's flat. You're going to go ahead and use the guide rod, slide that in there, press down on it, and that's it. It just sits in there. Now it doesn't have a very obvious groove on most guns. It does have some sort of like little half moon crescent shape area. This one doesn't. So it's just gonna sit in there locked in, and that's it. You'll notice that it's vertical. If you have it kind of slightly angled down, you've pressed too much or you're riding on the edge, maybe you got caught on something on the barrel. It really shouldn't, because it's a smooth surface, so it should find its place. But just make sure that that does look vertical once you have it sitting in there. Now moving over to the slide, same thing, just a quick wipe. I always get in here to make sure that I don't have a bunch of just junk from the magazine channel here. Because you do get a bunch of powder residue going in there from time to time, and especially depending on the gun that you have, and you don't want to have issues ejecting or inserting a magazine. Now that I've given that a quick scrubbing, I just get something in here, just wipe it down. And as you can see, not a whole lot in there, which is one of the reasons I like to use cleaner shooting ammo. If you used Winchester White Box, this would be covered in a bunch of filth. It shoots fine, it's great for target because it's cheap, but it is a dirtier round, which is what people mean when they say that's a dirty round. It really does create a bunch of buildup and junk all over your gun. And here, making sure there's no little grains of unburnt powder. Again, I use a cleaner ammo, so this isn't going to look like yours if you don't do the same. You might see a bunch of looks like little rocks, little pieces of sand. It's just a bunch of little grains of unburnt powder. And you might see residue, which is just looks like soot all over. So you want to make sure there's nothing in between. Plus, it'll affect your trigger pull. You'll feel the grit as it's scraping in there, kind of like sand. So make sure that's clean. If you prefer, make sure you have like a little towel or something underneath. And if you do have spray, you can spray in there and just make sure you dry it out with either air or just let it dry out in the open if you have that time, and wipe it down. Make sure there's nothing in there. Again, you don't want a bunch of buildup. Everything is good on here. I want to make sure the rails are also clean and lubricated. I can actually feel mine. They feel like they're, well, they are polished, but they feel very, very slick. And I like that. But I'm still going to go ahead and spray just a little bit of oil and just wipe that. If you'd like, you can put just a little drop of oil right here on the inside of the rails. That's what's making contact with the rails on the gun. So that's going to be a smooth sliding surface for it. I would recommend using some sort of applicator or bottle that has that little needle nose point, just so you can put a single drop. If you do put a regular bottle and just drop some in here and it fills up the whole channel, you can always just wipe it off. Again, the goal is to make sure it's got lubrication on it, not that it's coated in oil and dripping and soaking wet. My main concern is making sure nothing rusts, and it's not going to rust. I don't need to have it caked in oil for it to not rust. It just needs to be clean and have a little bit of lubrication. Also keep in mind, you should be doing this often. I'd say at the very least once a month. So you really shouldn't need to clean it all that much after some time. I did go to the range with this. I shot a couple of magazines through it, and as you can see, with a couple of magazines, it's still relatively clean. To reassemble this, you're going to make sure that this little lever is down. You're going to go ahead and start from the front. Some guns you can start here. This is not one of them, where you could just kind of drop it in and go back. This, you do have to go from the front. Line up the slots with the slide. This is usually the part where people have a problem because they'll end up hitting the ejector on the back of the slide. Make sure that doesn't happen. You shouldn't ever have to force it. Now, on its own, it should stop right about here. Ready to push up. Just going to grab the slide, push it back, lock the slide back. That's it. I just locked the slide back, flip that over. Now the gun is locked in. It's not going to come back out, if you'll see. With the trigger pulled, I can't do what I did before of just pulling the slide off. It's locked in. And that's it. I've already cleaned it. This is a nice, crisp, clean trigger that has been cleaned. This sits somewhere at about 3.5 pounds maybe. But I don't feel any grits. That's what I'm doing. I'm not just checking out the reset or anything like that. I want to make sure that I have nothing in between the trigger bar or any of the pieces. I feel no grit. It's 100% clean. I'm good with that. But that's me being a little bit picky. Again, everyone, we all have our own method of doing things. They're not all wrong. We have different ways that all get the job done. But there you go. A nice, clean carry gun. Final step for me is quickly look at the magazine before I insert it. I'd use just a little bit of oil that I already had on the rag. Give it a nice quick wipe, because you do also want to make sure your magazines are also clean. And I keep stressing that you don't want these caked in oil. As you can see, it got just a little bit, which makes it all nice and shiny. But I'm not having it look caked in oil.
Oh shit, here we go again.
with anything dripping down. If you did do that, remember that oil is going to drip down somewhere depending on the orientation of your gun. It's going to go in that direction. Next thing you know, you have a bunch of oil caked at the bottom, and then that's going to do nothing but collect dust and grime, and that's not going to lead to anything good.